Hello and welcome to the second of my SPSS tutorials for the PS2815 practical report. So if you go to the Canvas page, if you want the data to play along with this at home, you can go to the Semester 2 Practical Workshops page on the PS2815 Canvas page, scroll all the way down near the bottom and you'll see a link for correlational dummy data for 6 variables. That's an SPSS file that you should download to play along with this. If you do that and you open it in SPSS, you will end up with a set of data which look like this. What I've done here is I've created just some dummy data, and for 6 variables. For example, I have extroversion, openness, agreeableness. Those are my 3 personality scales, and then I've assumed I'm doing music as my study. You will obviously be doing whatever you're doing in your study, and I have people's scores for liking the rock music, the classical music, and the rap music. So when I go back to my data view, in rows I have data for 50 participants, 1 per row, and for example, participant 1 scored 35 for extroversion, 39 for openness, 11 for agreeableness, 7 out of 9 for liking rock music, 3 out of 9 for liking classical music, and 6 out of 9 for liking rap music, and so on for all of my participants. The first thing you'll want to do is, before you run your correlation though, is get your descriptive data. So if you click on Analyze, and then you click on Descriptive Statistics, and then you go to Descriptives, you will have this. Select all of your variables. I'm just holding Shift and using the down arrow key to collect all of them and transfer them across. I then go into the Options button. Already ticked is mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum. I would also click Kurtosis and Skewness. These are characteristics of the curves, of the distribution curves of your data. I'm not going to go into any great detail about what you're going to do with that. That's entirely up to you, but it's something that you might want to look at when you're reporting on the nature of your data before running your correlations. Anyway, if you click continue and then you click OK, you end up with a table with your descriptive statistics in. And as I said, you get minimums, maximums, mean, standard deviation, and then you get standard errors and skewness statistic, and a standard error and a kurtosis statistic. And as I said, you will need to look that up yourself and figure out what you want to do with that, if anything at all. So next, you're going to want to run your correlation. So you've got your 6 variables. These are your 6 totals that have been created from all the other variables you collected in your study. You should see my previous video if you want advice on how to at least calculate a total and do any reverse coding. And then what we're going to do now is click Analyze, and we're going to click Correlate, and we're going to use bivariate correlations. We want to look at the correlation between all of our variables. So again, I will use the Shift and down arrow key to select all of my variables, and I will transfer them into the box on the right. Correlation coefficients, Pearson's correlations are already selected, and that's the ones we want, and we want two-tailed significance, and we want SPSS to flag for us any significant correlations. We can go into our options, and we can, if we want, we can do means and standard deviations, tick there, and click continue. Now we can click OK, and we will now get the output for our correlations. You'll notice that you get another descriptive stats. It's a much cut down version, but it should tally up exactly with the means and standard deviations in the table above. And then here is our correlation table. Now, of course, this is just purely made up, and I can't go into massive detail on this because it's not going to necessarily be relevant to you, but what I will do is just quickly talk you through what I'm seeing here if this was my study. So for example, if I want to look at how does extroversion relate to all the other variables in my study, well, I can see as I go along, I can see I get a 0.913 correlation between extroversion and openness. I get a 0.675 negative correlation with agreeableness. And then I'm getting a significant positive correlation between extroversion, those with higher extroversion scores, and liking for rock music, a negative correlation between extroversion and classical music, and nothing at all going on for rap music and extroversion. I can tell these are significant for 2 reasons. One, because the 2 little asterisks there are flagging those significant correlations for me, and then my p-value, which is in the significance two-tailed row of the table, is 0.000, which means a very highly significant in terms of the p-value. So the p-value is so low that it doesn't fit within 3 significant figures. When you report that, of course, you don't put p is equal to 0.000, you would put, in this case, p is less than 0.001. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that for now, and hopefully that gives you everything you need to now run your analysis and report it yourself. Thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again in the future.